JonBenét Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990, in Atlanta, Georgia, to John and Patsy Ramsey. From an early age, JonBenét exhibited a natural charm, and her parents quickly recognized her potential. By the time she was 4 years old, JonBenét was entering beauty pageants, a world she would soon dominate. Known for her golden locks, bright blue eyes, and contagious smile, she quickly became a popular figure in the child pageant scene. Her family, particularly her mother, Patsy, encouraged her pursuit of pageantry. Patsy had also been a former beauty queen, and she was determined to ensure that JonBenét had every opportunity for success. As a child, JonBenét was bubbly, joyful, and the epitome of the American dream. She lived in a beautiful home with loving parents and an older brother, Burke, who was 9 years her senior. The Ramsey family's life appeared perfect on the outside, filled with success, wealth, and a seemingly bright future. The events of Christmas night in 1996 were far from normal. The Ramsey family had celebrated Christmas Eve together, and JonBenét was excited about the holiday festivities. The next morning, on December 25th, Patsy Ramsey awoke to find that her daughter was missing. At around 5:30 a.m., Patsy discovered a ransom note on the staircase. The note, demanding $118,000 for JonBenét's release, was oddly specific, almost eerily mirroring John Ramsey's year-end bonus. Patsy immediately called 911, claiming her daughter had been kidnapped. The distress in her voice echoed to the phone lines as she frantically explained the situation to the dispatcher. As the minutes ticked by, the Ramsey family grew more desperate, but something seemed off. Hours passed before JonBenét's body was found in the basement of the house. Hidden in a small room, she had been strangled, and a garrote was tied around her neck. The scene was gruesome and raised more questions than answers. How could the kidnapper have left her body in the home, especially with the family still present? The mystery only deepened as the investigation unfolded. Upon the discovery of JonBenét's body, suspicions began to rise around the Ramsey family. How could a ransom note be so meticulously written, only to have the child's body found just hours later inside their own home? JonBenét's father, John Ramsey, was initially not considered suspect. However, his calm demeanor raised eyebrows. Both he and Patsy remained in the home during the search and offered no immediate signs of panic, which seemed unusual to many investigators and the public alike. In the midst of the turmoil, the Ramsey family's reactions were perplexing. They appeared to be in shock, but they also seemed disturbingly composed. When the police arrived, they did not immediately separate the family or protect the crime scene. Instead, the house remained open, and people moved freely in and out. This lack of caution was highly criticized, especially given the circumstances. Had crucial evidence been tampered with? The investigation into JonBenét's death was fraught with mistakes from the very beginning. The Boulder Police Department failed to secure the crime scene properly. Friends, neighbors, and even the Ramsey family's close associates were allowed into the house without any supervision. As a result, valuable forensic evidence could have been compromised. The initial police assessment focused largely on the family, which was a typical first step in cases like this. However, this raised more questions. The ransom note found on the staircase was deemed strange. It was lengthy, written in a childlike scrawl, and featured odd phrasings that some experts believe were inconsistent with the speech of an experienced kidnapper. Why would someone leave such an elaborate note, but then fail to follow through on their plan to take the child away? As the days turned into weeks, the investigation became more chaotic. While the police turned their attention to the Ramsey family, they also began to entertain the possibility that the crime was the work of an intruder. This theory grew stronger as it was revealed that a window had been broken in the basement, which some believed was the point of entry for the murderer. As the media descended on Boulder, speculation grew rampant. Some believed JonBenét's parents had something to do with their daughter's death. Patsy Ramsey, in particular, became a focal point. She was described by the press as a pageant mom obsessed with her daughter's success, which led to public accusations of a cover-up. A particularly bizarre aspect of the case was the ransom note itself. Some experts speculated that the phrasing and tone of the note suggested it may have been written by someone who knew the family. This theory led investigators to scrutinize the Ramseys more closely, particularly the possibility that Patsy herself had written the note. The pressure mounted when a grand jury was convened to investigate the family further. After an extensive inquiry, the jury ultimately decided not to indict the Ramseys. Despite this, the family's public image had already been tainted. They continued to deny any involvement in JonBenét's death, but their lives would never be the same. As the investigation continued, law enforcement began to consider the possibility that the crime was committed by an intruder. The broken window in the basement suggested that someone could have sneaked into the home, abducted JonBenét, and then brought her back inside to kill her. This theory was backed by a number of details in the case. For one, the house was large, and there were several possible entry points for an intruder. Additionally, JonBenét's body was found in a part of the house that was isolated from the rest of the family. The ransom note, however, was still an odd point of contention. How could someone, likely a stranger, have known about the exact amount of John Ramsey's bonus? Despite the circumstantial evidence pointing to a potential intruder, no arrests were ever made. The DNA evidence recovered from JonBenét's clothing, which didn't match any of the Ramsey family, was also inconsistent with any known suspects. However, the media had already latched onto the idea that the family was guilty, casting a shadow over the entire investigation. As time passed, one of the most important pieces of evidence in the case was the DNA found on JonBenét's underwear. The DNA, which did not match anyone in the Ramsey family or their known associates, was seen as a breakthrough in the case. It seemed to confirm the possibility of an intruder, but still, no conclusive leads were uncovered. The forensic evidence, though, would not be enough to crack the case. The media storm surrounding the case was overwhelming. Every detail was scrutinized by reporters, and the Ramseys were continuously bombarded with questions. Their every move was reported, and it became impossible for family to separate fact from fiction. The constant public exposure and press coverage made it nearly impossible for investigators to proceed without bias. Despite the overwhelming media pressure and public speculation, the Ramsey family never gave up on their quest for justice. They publicly advocated for a proper investigation into their daughter's death, and they fought tirelessly to clear their names. They even offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of JonBenét's killer. Patsy Ramsey, in particular, became a vocal advocate for her daughter, appearing on national television to plead for justice. However, the media continued to target her, questioning every aspect of her involvement and making it almost impossible for her to prove her innocence. Tragically, Patsy Ramsey passed away in 2006 from ovarian cancer, and John Ramsey continued to fight to clear her name. In 2008, a new development emerged in the case. The DNA evidence found on JonBenét's body was re-examined. It was revealed that the DNA did not match anyone in the Ramsey family or known suspects. This breakthrough led many to reconsider the theory that an intruder was involved. For a moment, it seemed like the case was finally going to be solved. However, even with this new lead, the investigation remained stalled. Over the years, various theories came and went, but no one was ever charged with the murder of JonBenét Ramsey. The case remained an enigma. Over 2 decades later, the murder of JonBenét Ramsey remains unsolved. Theories continue to abound, from family involvement to the possibility of an intruder. Yet, after years of public scrutiny, media frenzy, and ongoing investigations, the truth remains elusive. JonBenét's death was a tragic event that shook the nation, and it left an indelible mark on the American public's consciousness. The unanswered questions continue to haunt those who were close to the case, and the world still wonders, who killed JonBenét Ramsey? JonBenét's death was not just a mystery. It became a symbol of the dangers of sensationalism in media, the flaws in the justice system, and the lasting impact of unsolved crimes on families. Her case continues to serve as a reminder of the importance of thorough investigation, the impact of public opinion, and the never-ending quest for justice.